Hi, I'm Hal Roberts. This is Bridge City News. Here's some of the top stories we've been following. Lethbridge police are investigating a sexual assault of a 16-year-old, which took place at Chinook High School. Ottawa's announced that Canada's top 5 grocery chains have agreed to freeze prices on groceries for now. And we get a historical look at a spectacular World Heritage Site in Alberta known as Riding on Stone Provincial Park.
Your nation. Your province. Your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. Lethbridge police are investigating the sexual assault of a 16-year-old high school student. Police say the incident took place Tuesday at Chinook High School and involved players from the school's football program. The assault took place in the school's locker room and after regular school hours. Police say the incident was not random. The suspects and victim knew each other. Both the high school and the Lethbridge School Division are fully cooperating in the investigation. Police say there was no risk to other students and the school remains open. More needs to be done to help those who are being human trafficked and abused across Canada. That's according to the Women's Equality Coalition, which took their message to Parliament Hill on Thursday. A spokesperson with the Vancouver Rape Relief and Women's Shelter says women need hope and a way out.
Women must have robust, accessible supports in order to exit prostitution, and the federal government must invest in funding to exiting services that include detox and long-term recovery programs on demand, safe and affordable housing, childcare, education, and a livable income.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was asked if his government will be moving ahead and cutting spending with the Canadian military. The federal government asked the armed forces to find $1 billion in savings with the defense budget. So will there actually be cuts then?
No, because there are no cuts to our military. Every year we increase our spending on military. We've increased military expenditures by 70% over these past years and into the future, and we're going to continue to invest billions more, including $38 billion for NORAD modernization. We're continuing to move forward with significant upgrades, investments in strong, secure, and engaged, and in the future of our Canadian Armed Forces. Every year we invest more in the men and women who defend our country.
Canada's Industry Minister, François-Philippe Champagne, says our country's top 5 grocery chains have agreed to take action to help stabilize grocery prices. He says shoppers will soon begin to see discounts, price freezes, and price-matching campaigns. Champagne says these measures will create a much more competitive marketplace for food, which should benefit consumers.
And this is not about us, this is about Canadians. They're talking to their 40 million customers who are watching today. 40 million people are probably watching, and they're going to adjust their buying patterns in light of what they see. And that's what we want, because it's going to, if the 40 million of us are putting our collective purchasing power together, things will change. That's what we want to see.
The Canadian Taxpayers Federation is sounding the alarm over more government spending, but this time it has more to do with 6-figure vacations and blowing thousands of dollars on dry cleaning. Now, to chat about this in more detail is Chris Sims, Alberta Director of the CTF, who joins us from here in Lethbridge. Chris, so many Canadians are struggling, and you say our Prime Minister is taking 6-figure vacations funded by the taxpayer?
Yes, it's something that is deeply problematic, and we've seen it over and over again. So we heard that, of course, he's spending, more than $100,000 on his trip out to Tofino. That was during the so-called breakup time. You guys might remember that they announced their breakup, which is fine. That's their business. But then they decided to go on a vacation together. Well, it turns out that Canadians paid in the 6 figures for that vacation out to Tofino. And the most recent one that we've caught wind of is this report that, guess what? They spent more than $200,000 to go on a vacation to Montana. Keep in mind, this does not include the salaries of the RCMP, and apparently doesn't even include the salaries of the Royal Canadian Air Force, which, of course, are tasked with flying the Prime Minister around. And this is key, Hal, and it's about transparency. When reporters asked the Trudeau government, hey, how much did you spend on that Montana trip? They told the House of Commons just over $20,000. Turns out it was more than $200,000.
Wow. Now, Chris, you say taxpayers were also on the hook for thousands of dollars in dry cleaning and catering?
Yeah, so the dry cleaning comes out of the office of the Governor General and not any one specific. We're looking just at the office itself and not the person within it. But it's apparently been over $100,000 spent over the last few years on dry cleaning. And even when you ask people who wear, fancy dress, right, like really regal sort of elegant things, the amount that they're spending per month there is still way above what they should be. So we're calling for more transparency and more respect for taxpayer dollars coming out of Rideau Hall. And the other element, which just blew my socks off, Hal. So a year ago, you probably remember, as do your viewers, when prices were skyrocketing, especially at the grocery store, our interest rates were soaring, inflation was a huge problem. What did the Trudeau cabinet do? They booked themselves an inflation summit retreat at the Hyatt in downtown Vancouver. Get this, they spent more than $46,000 just on the catering bill.
Wow. Thanks for your time today, Chris. That was Chris Sims, Alberta Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, joining us from Lethbridge. The Alberta government announced a $330 million investment over the next 5 years to help revitalize downtown Calgary. Government officials say the money will help support the Calgary Rivers District and Event Centre. Now, last April, the province, the city, and Calgary Exhibition and Stampede signed a memorandum of understanding to invest in infrastructure to support the new event centre, which includes a 1,000-seat downtown arena for amateur hockey.
Alberta's investment in the revitalization of the Rivers District will support public amenities and infrastructure in the district, and that includes a new community rink, improvements to public spaces, and importantly, connections to the entertainment district. Of course, any investment in infrastructure is much more than the dollar figure attached to a project. It's more than a building and it's more than a road. It's an investment in making Alberta the best place to live and work and raise a family.
Alberta Health Services announced that newly recruited international nurses from 15 countries will soon be arriving in our province. Officials say around 70 RNs will help bolster staffing at 30 AHS sites in both central and northern Alberta. Those sites include hospitals, community health centres, and long-term care facilities. About 70 nurses are expected to arrive in the next 6 months as they accept job offers and move through immigration. AHS officials say even more will be arriving over the next couple of years. Well, we saw lots of cloud cover and cooler temperatures across much of southwestern Alberta again today. Angela Stewart is in now with an early peek at the forecast. Angela, it looks like a warming trend, however, may be on the way.
Yeah, how that seems to be the case. Gorgeous temperatures and lots of sunshine is on the way for our region. We can expect to be in those mid-20s with lots of sunshine, like I mentioned. So that's great news as we're rounding out our weekend and then heading into Thanksgiving long weekend. As for today, a little bit cooler. We saw a little bit of rain in the morning, nothing too crazy. Reached a high of 13 today, down to a low of -4 overnight, and then up to 19 degrees with lots of sunshine kicking off our weekend. Great news there. And then down to a low of 5 overnight for tomorrow. As for how the rest of the week is shaping up, I'll have all those details coming up later on in the show.
Great. Thanks so much, Angela. Fire permits are once again being permitted in Lethbridge County. Officials lifted the fire restriction thanks to the cooler, wet weather we've been receiving lately. You're now once again allowed to burn yard waste, untreated wood, straw, stubble, and paper products. Now, plastics, animal waste, or chemical burns are not permitted. County officials say the fire permits are free and are available online or through the Lethbridge County app. The city has made changes to its Phase 2 snow and ice control, which will now cover a larger area than in the past. During an SBC meeting this afternoon, our city's transportation operations manager says some of the changes include more residential plowing throughout areas of the city.
Last year we implemented plowing to the right along approximately 23 kilometers during Phase 1. And this year we are expanding on that project and we'll plow same areas and then an additional 60 kilometers to the right as well. In areas where we install snow road signs and declare snow roads so that residents move their cars away and our operation can be conducted more efficient.
The areas of the city included in Phase 2 can be found on the City of Lethbridge website. Danielle McIntyre, the Executive Director of the Interfaith Food Bank, was on hand at SACPA on Thursday speaking about food insecurity issues here in Lethbridge. She spoke about how food banks in our province have seen a large increase in the use of their services over the past couple of years. McIntyre says locally, they've seen about a 30% increase in the number of people who need food and hopes their presentation encourages more people to get involved to help those most in need.
As we head into the colder winter months, we know that number is going to continue to go up. So it's a really great timing with Thanksgiving this weekend that we're able to encourage people to be grateful for what they have and think about others who might not have as much. Grocery costs are out of hand and more people are in need of food bank services. So I'm here to advocate on behalf of the food bank and encourage people to get involved with us.
Last week, Food Banks Canada released their poverty report card. Almost every province failed. Alberta, meanwhile, received a D grade. Riding on Stone Provincial Park is a beautiful natural landscape that you can visit just over an hour away from Lethbridge. It features incredible rock carvings that date back thousands of years. BCN's Micah Quinn heard from the experts on the history of this amazing World Heritage Site near Milk River, Alberta.
I've been visiting Asinate, riding on stone, since the 70s.
The historic park was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site back in 2019 and holds a special place in the hearts of many Blackfoot people in southern Alberta.
Every time I go there, it doesn't matter native, non-native, young, old, I give them tobacco and we offer to the ground after we pray with it, out of respect for the people from the past, from people that have gone before us, because I've gone there with a lot of elders, so I've used a lot of their interpretation and the stories behind them. I've tried to mentally collect all those, because we're a very verbal and oral transition of information, through history. Is very verbal.
Two of the main attractions at Riding on Stone Provincial Park are the petroglyphs and the pictographs.
When we talk about petroglyphs, those are the work, the imprints done with either a sharp bone, antler. The more simplistic the design, the harder to interpret. The pictographs are the ones that are done with red ochre, that are drawn with the red ochre, and that is called the pictographs, the design. And both of them are lasting the weather elements, and so those are to stay forever.
Staff at the site told us there's a huge range in the age of the markings.
Some of the oldest pictures date to approximately 2,000 years old, whereas the most recent picture that we are aware of is 99 years old, coming up on its 100th anniversary next year.
The only thing I ask people that are visiting right now, respect them. Do not touch them. Do not put your name on them. Do not scratch anything.
For Bridge City News, I'm Micah Quinn.
Riding on Stone, an incredible UNESCO heritage site. Jiu-Jitsu is not only used to help keep you in shape, but it's also used in self-defense. Ricardo Duarte is the owner of the Gracie Barrett Jiu-Jitsu Center here in Lethbridge. He says this martial art is becoming popular with people of all ages.
We teach you to be water, not fire. So Jiu-Jitsu is a self-defense martial art. So we don't teach people to be aggressive, to be violent. We teach people how to defend themselves, how to adapt to situations, how to understand when they are in danger, when they are being threatened by someone in the school or in the street. So to protect yourself. So no, I don't want to fight with you. So you show the opponent that you want to fight. But if you need to use it, you're gonna be very, very protective, because it's very effective.
Learn more about Jiu-Jitsu with Ricardo Duarte and BCN's Naveen Day coming up after Business News. Thousands of uniformed officers marched in procession. They were attending the regimental funeral for RCMP Constable Rick O'Brien in Langley, British Columbia. He was killed last month while trying to execute a drug-related warrant in nearby Coquitlam.
So I'm the mother of two RCMP members, and we share. My one son is her son-in-law.
Yeah.
So we share grandchildren, and we also, Pat's husband is a retired firefighter, so part of the whole big first responder family.
We're just here to show support, and it's a horrible thing that happened, and we all feel it deep in our hearts when this kind of situation happens, and so showing our support, I think, is a really important part of this.
It's devastated for his family. We're both members of the Langley community, and we're here to show support for his wife and family and all the RCMP family.
South of the border, Republicans are looking for a new speaker after a divided House removed Kevin McCarthy. The House voted 216 to 210 to remove McCarthy from his position. It comes following an 11th-hour deal to avert a government shutdown in the United States.
Somebody's got to take the reins and say, we're going to address the problems facing this country, and House Republicans are doing it. And I really do think if we put the skins on the wall, if we pass the bills.
Sir, are you planning to run for the speaker position?
No, we are. Yeah, we are.
You are?
Yeah. The most pressing issue on Americans' minds is not Ukraine. It is the border situation, and it's crime on the streets, and everybody knows that.
Kevin McCarthy is the first to be ousted through a vote of the full House in the middle of a congressional term. Well, it appears as though the city of Paris, France, has a bit of a bedbug problem. Officials say the infestation has soared in a number of theaters and local hotels. Tourists may be to blame.
Malheureusement, les gens savent pas forcément s'ils ont des punaises ou pas. Hein. Comme dit, ils ont une piqûre, ils pensent tout de suite une araignée, un moustique. Hein. Malheureusement, ces derniers temps, avec l'effet du cinéma, ainsi que dans le métro, hein, dans le train, ça a éclaté. Hein, d'accord. Nous avons une charge de travail monstrueuse.
I hope they get each and every one of them. Wow. So many Canadians were excited to see the Toronto Blue Jays in the postseason once again this year. Sadly, however, the Jays were swept in the wildcard series, losing 2-0 to the Minnesota Twins and losing the best-of-3 affair 2-0. It was the second straight year Canada's baseball team, the Blue Jays, were swept in the wildcard series.
We got beat up 2 years in a row in the playoffs, so I think there's a lot of reflection needed from players, but from the organization, from top to down. Everybody needs to reflect and see what we can do better, so I think that's the next step. Obviously, you can always be better, but they have great pitching over there, and they were just better than us.
I mean, it just seemed like whenever we got opportunities, their pitchers just made good pitches. They stepped up and made pitches when they needed to, or made a play when they needed to, and unfortunately, we weren't able to get the job done. Sometimes there's no rhyme or reason why we're not scoring runs, but I think that they outplayed us.
Baseball's hard. I mean, it happens. Not everybody's going to have a career year every single year. People have down years, and I think what like I said before, you just let that motivate you to get better from here on out.
Hoping for a better result next season for the Toronto Blue Jays. Well, we've been experiencing some cooler temperatures here in Lethbridge. Fortunately, the mercury will be climbing once again. A full look at the weather pictures coming up. May be a good time fairly soon for a hike at Riding on Stone Provincial Park near Milk River or a canoe trip in Waterton Lakes National Park. The mercury is climbing once again. Angela Stewart is now with all of the weather details. Ange, lots of sunshine and warmer temperatures are in the long-range forecast for much of southwestern Alberta.
Yes, beautiful temperatures and conditions are on the way for Lethbridge. So great news there. Would be a good time, like you mentioned, Hal, to get out for that hike or even that canoe trip if you're feeling up to it. Speaking of those temperatures and conditions, tomorrow, that's when those temperatures and warmer conditions are starting. 19 for tomorrow, lots of sunshine, and then mid-20s for the rest of the weekend for our Thanksgiving long weekend. 24, 26 for Saturday, Sunday, and Monday there. Back to work on Tuesday. 24, partly cloudy skies, cooling off slightly for Wednesday, 19 and partly cloudy. So not too bad all around. Average high for this time of year is 17 degrees. Average low is 2. 26 degrees was the highest temperature recorded back in 2003 on this day. Minus 14 was the lowest temperature back in 1957. 7:37, our sun rose this morning, expected to set at 7:02. That puts us at about 11 hours and 26 minutes of daylight for today. Okay, so temperatures and conditions across the country now for Friday. There is some light rain in the morning to be expected if you are in Victoria, so keep that in mind. Cooling off slightly in Vancouver for tomorrow, 19. Otherwise, going to be great if you are out on the coast or more inland Metro Vancouver area. Edmonton, Calgary, same deal. Lots of sunshine ahead for them. Mid-20s is kind of what's expected there, but over 20 degrees tomorrow. For tomorrow, Saskatoon, 10 degrees there. Cooler in Regina, 8 degrees, partly cloudy skies. Rain to be expected in Winnipeg tomorrow, about 5 millimeters is kind of what's on tap. As we head to central Canada now, this is kind of where it's looking a little bit more soggier, wetter conditions, and I'll explain that in just a second. 24 degrees with a risk of an afternoon thunderstorm for Ottawa. Kind of the same deal for Toronto, although there is not a risk of a thunderstorm. 21 there tomorrow and 26 for Montreal. Okay, so as we're looking ahead to Atlantic Canada, keep in mind that there is special weather statements. There is also a tropical cyclone statement specifically in effect for Halifax there. Meteorologists are tracking it's considered a weak tropical storm at this point, but it could intensify. Windiest parts of the storm, are expected for the western part of the province, specifically near Nova Scotia. So keep that in mind. The next update for that storm is coming out tomorrow. But otherwise, 22, 23 for Fredericton, Halifax, and Charlottetown, and 15 expected for St. John's. And that is a look at your full weather forecast.
Canada's merchandise trade balance shifted to a surplus in August. Stats Canada says the shift was helped by strong growth in exports of gold and crude oil. The agency says Canada posted a trade surplus of $718 million in August. That compared with a revised deficit of $437 million in July. The change came as total exports rose 5.7% to $64.6 billion. New home construction increased slightly across Canada in many of our major cities during the first half of the year. The Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation says the pace of apartment starts helped to offset declines in other dwelling types in the first 6 months of the year. But the agency says it will be difficult to maintain the heightened pace of apartment construction. It cites many challenges facing developers, such as increased building costs and rising interest rates. Now, here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was up 103 points on the day to finish at 19,137. The Dow was down 9 points to 33,119. The S&P 500 was down 5 on the day to 4258, and the Nasdaq was down 16 points to 13,219. West Texas Intermediate Oil was down $1.65 to $82.57 US per barrel. Natural gas was up 23 cents to $3.19 US. Gold was down $1 to $18.2036 US an ounce, and silver was down 4 cents on the day to $20.97 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $9.72 per bushel, barley's at $7.51, canola's at $15.75, and corn is at $9.02 per bushel. Live cattle were down 25 cents to $181.95. Feeder cattle were down 28 cents to $247.50, and lean hogs were up 98 cents to $80.90. The Canadian dollar was up slightly over the past 24 hours to $72.95 US. Recapping one of our top stories, Lethbridge police are investigating the sexual assault of a 16-year-old high school student. Police say the incident took place at Chinook High School and involved players from the school's football program. The assault took place on Tuesday in the school's locker room after regular school hours. Police say the incident was not random since the suspect and victim knew each other. Both the school and the Lethbridge School Division are fully cooperating in the investigation. You've heard of martial arts such as Taekwondo and Kung Fu, but what about Jiu-Jitsu? Coming up, we're going to chat with the owner of a Jiu-Jitsu studio here in Lethbridge to find out why this martial art, which uses few or no weapons at all, is increasing in popularity when it comes to self-defense. Watch the interview with BCN's Naveen Day shortly. When you see news happening in your community, be sure to drop us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. And if you missed any of today's local stories, check out our website, bridgecitynews.ca.
Here's today's Bridge City News community calendar. The Forever Friends Pet Services is holding their first annual Pet Food Drive this Saturday, October 7th in the Fort Whoop-Up parking lot from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Bring a donation of pet food for a family in need and receive a pumpkin and a fall-themed photo of your pet. All proceeds will support the Interfaith Food Bank in Lethbridge. Enjoy the outdoors and support a worthy cause by coming to the 24th annual Lethbridge Corn Maze fundraiser, taking place Thanksgiving Day from noon to 6 p.m. All proceeds from admission sales will go to the Lethbridge Pregnancy Care Center. The Pregnancy Care Center is an agency that offers support and education to anyone experiencing unexpected pregnancy and pregnancy-related loss. For more information, visit lethbridgecornmaze.com. The Lethbridge Christian Women's Choir promises to be another semester filled with music, laughter, friendship, and praise. Ladies of all ages are welcome to come and take part on Mondays at 7:30 p.m. at St. Andrew's Church. No auditions required. For more information, call Karen at 403-315-0419. And that's today's Bridge City News Community Calendar.
With millions of people practicing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu globally, as little as 2% make it to the upper ranking in the sport. Ricardo Duarte is the owner of Gracie Barra Jiu-Jitsu in Lethbridge, who will be hosting a free event for kids to begin their journey in self-defense. Ricardo, thanks so much for joining us. Welcome to Bridge City News.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for inviting us to talk about Jiu-Jitsu. It's amazing. Amazing opportunity to tell everyone about this amazing martial art.
Well, I'm looking forward to learning more about it myself as well. So let's get started. Tell us what motivated you to start practicing Jiu-Jitsu and what inspired you to establish Gracie Barra Jiu-Jitsu Lethbridge?
First, Jiu-Jitsu is a martial art that was developed in Japan and was changed a little bit in Brazil. So it was improved. There's a lot of new techniques created and it's still like in growing. There's always new technique coming out. So this versatility made me like even more the martial art, because now I can practice something that I can use for my life, because Jiu-Jitsu is about life and the martial art itself. So it helps you to improve yourself every day, to improve your life and the life of people around you. So Jiu-Jitsu is a lot about life, and you have like an extra martial art that helps you to be in a better shape and also to learn to defend yourself if you need it.
Now, there's lots of martial arts options out there: karate, taekwondo, judo. In your opinion, what are the key advantages of learning jiu-jitsu for self-defense, both in terms of physical skills and mental preparedness?
Yeah, jiu-jitsu, the main difference between jiu-jitsu and other martial arts, it was proven in the 90s when Royce Gracie started fighting on UFC, and then when other Gracie family members and other jiu-jitsu practitioners start like fighting around the world on other tournaments. That jiu-jitsu is a very effective martial art. So when it was developed, like in Brazil, like during the certain part of the time, Helio Gracie, he used jiu-jitsu and he tested with other martial arts. So he kind of proved to everyone that jiu-jitsu was even complete, because when you are like facing someone and the guy needs to come close to you, so that's when jiu-jitsu starts. So we go to the grappling, or we can even work on the stand-up. And you can overcome some other martial arts. So that's something that's very important. So today with the UFC MMA, it was proven again that jiu-jitsu is very effective, because you can either fight and stand up, but when you go to the floor, when you go to grappling, jiu-jitsu is one of the most effective martial arts in the world. So it's very useful.
Interesting. Now, can you share why it's particularly important for children to learn jiu-jitsu? I mean, like when I was a kid, I was, like there was like some violence in school with bullying and stuff. And my parents always told me to go to the principal, not defend myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically, we teach you to be water, not fire. So jiu-jitsu is a self-defense martial art. So we don't teach people to be aggressive, to be violent. We teach people how to defend themselves, how to adapt to situations, how to understand when they are in danger, when they are being like threatened by someone in the school or in the street. So to protect yourself. So no, I don't want to fight with you. So you show the opponent that you want to fight. But if you need to use it, you're gonna be very, very protective, because it's very effective. So you don't have to wound your opponent, but sometimes you can lock in positions that he cannot even move, and then someone call police, and someone can either like help you to defend yourself against your aggressor. So it's very, very interesting the way jiu-jitsu can either be more violent if you need, but we don't teach that. We teach you to control the situation. That's what that's what about jiu-jitsu, is to control the situation.
Oh, so it's all more about de-escalating then, rather than trying to rather than trying to aggravate things.
Yeah, exactly. That's when I always say we are water, we are not fire.
Okay. Now, can you tell us about the various competitions organized by Gracie Barra Jiu-Jitsu Lethbridge, and how do these events contribute to the growth of the Jiu-Jitsu community?
Yeah, so we are new in town, but Gracie Barra is the biggest franchise Brazilian school in the world. It's became a franchise. We are spread in like 55 countries, so we have a culture. We are directly legacy from the Gracie family. We teach the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in a way that we teach in Brazil, literally like teaching the fundamentals, the basics, all the philosophy about Jiu-Jitsu, about life. So that helps kids to understand better the life, the situation. So we help parents to grow the kids so they can like behave better, they can be better at school, be a better friend, be a better athlete, and that's in the events we are providing those tryouts. It's a way that we want the community to participate on that, to understand and to embrace the sport, because it's very important for the community to understand this sport, because it's very important for the world, like for people and for their intention to grow in life. So that when I say in the beginning, like that's about jiu-jitsu is about that. It's about growing in life. So that's what we want to bring to the community.
Now, I'm curious about Gracie Barra Jiu-Jitsu. Like, is it a specific discipline, or is it like more of just like a business franchise? Is there like a history and philosophy behind Gracie Barra gyms?
Yes, that is. We have our motto. It's jiu-jitsu for everyone. So we believe that jiu-jitsu needs to be spread around the world, to everyone, because our master Carlos always say, if all the world knows jiu-jitsu, we will have a better world. People will be more calm. People will understand better each other. So Gracie Barra is a lot about philosophy. It's a lot about like personal growing. So we have our sports side as well, which is very strong, because we became a franchise, but we are like a team. We call ourselves a team. It's the biggest team in the world nowadays.
Wow.
We have 150,000 people, 55 countries, 6 continents, 1,016 schools around the world right now.
Amazing.
So yeah, and we work literally as a team. So our students can train everywhere in the world. They're going to be very welcome with the team members, etc. So Gracie Barra, it's a huge connection of jiu-jitsu practitioners that love the sport, that love to make new friends, to be in a place they feel welcome. So that's about Gracie Barra. That's what we are.
Yeah, it's just amazing to hear like the diversity in this one organization, like not just jiu-jitsu alone, but like even the Gracie Barra organizations that are all across the world. So you obviously like have a lot of diversity going on here. What kinds of backgrounds and ages do your students come from?
Yeah, so we started 3 years old. So we teach the little kids to behave better, to understand themselves, to learn a lot of motor skills, and through games and jiu-jitsu itself. And then we go every level they go up. So there's more jiu-jitsu, more philosophy, more teaching, working with the parents to help them to improve their lives as well. And for the backgrounds, we believe everyone are equal. Like I said, jiu-jitsu for everyone. We are the same. It doesn't matter your job, doesn't matter your color, your culture. So inside the mat and outside the mat, we treat each other as the same. So that's why we value a lot our uniform, because when we put our uniform, we are exactly the same. We look the same, we think the same, we have the same goal, which is improving either our martial arts skills or our life skills or as a person. So that's what we believe. So we believe we are equal.
Can you tell us how jiu-jitsu has positively impacted the lives of your students, both physically and mentally, and maybe share some success stories or memorable moments from your students that really stand out to you?
Yeah, we have one of our students. He came to the gym. So on his trial, because I was helping professor with the trial, I sit on the mat and I start talking to him. I ask him like, "What's your goal? What are you looking for here?" He was there on the first week we opened. He's still there, very happy. Basically, every day he's there. And he told me, I want to lose weight because I lost my father. And like 1 week later, I lost my grandmother. It was very hard. And after that, the COVID struck and we were like locked at home. I couldn't handle that very well. And I need something to overcome that, to improve my mental health as well, and also my physical health. And now he already lost like 25 pounds since he started with us. He's like shiny and happy every day. And he came to me like 2 weeks ago. He told me, "Man, this changed life. That's crazy. How I every day I want to come here." Sometimes, of course, because of the trainings, we are a little bit sore. But he always send me messages. He's like, "Man, I would love to be there. I'm a little bit sore, but tomorrow I'll be there." And he's in the gym, improving every day. His goal, he's pushing. So we teach people to believe in themselves. So we teach people that they can do things. Everyone can do things. You just need to believe and need to work hard. So if you just want something, you don't work hard, you probably will not get it. But if you do work hard and if you believe in yourself, you can go wherever you go. You can be wherever you want to be. So there's something very important for us is working with our students to put on their mind that they are capable. They are totally capable to do whatever they want. So
how do you approach teaching jiu-jitsu techniques to beginners? The way I envision it like, is it is day one like sparring, or is it more like WWE when you have people on the ropes and just going down and just like beating people up? Or do you really just start off with the philosophy, and what is the teaching philosophy when it comes to introducing newcomers to this martial art?
Yeah, at first when they get to the gym, I present them myself. I show the gym. I show our kimono. I talk a little bit about philosophy, about where we came from. There are some students, they came to us a little bit like afraid, like scary with what gonna happen now. And during the training, we go, our beginners training is very, very understanding with everyone, because we like jiu-jitsu for everyone again. So if you believe that Mr. John, 25 years old, full of health, and Mrs. Kate, 67 years old, first class, like, so we believe they can train together. That's why when you start growing respect and understanding between people, so you start slowly. Our program, our GB1 program, it was made for that. So you can teach them basic techniques so they can learn how to defend. They can learn how to do like a submission, like very cautiously, of course. We take care of each one. We teach them like to do everything they need to learn first, and after that, after they get like 2 degrees on the belt, they can start doing the rolling, which is the jiu-jitsu sparring. However, this rolling is very controlled because they can roll, but like we observe them, so we watch the rolls like very closely so they don't hurt themselves. So competition trainings are pretty different because they are a little bit more rough, they're harder. So, but if you are invited for a competition team, so you understand that things gonna be a little bit harder. So when you get enough confidence, you can enter the competition team. But until there, you learn the techniques. We take care of each other. So we are a team. We don't need to compete with each other inside the gym. So we are training. We are improving. We are pushing each other up every day and cheering for each other success. So things goes like the pace depends on you. You put your pace on the trainings.
So what advice do you have for individuals who are considering starting jiu-jitsu but might be hesitant or unsure about taking that first step?
We used to say the hardest belt to get, the hardest at all, is the white belt. Because people are always afraid to start jiu-jitsu because they think they're gonna get hurt, they think gonna get wounded. But when they start, most of the people that went to our gym, they stay, because after the first training, they see us like they see the friendship that we are growing. Because, like I said in the beginning, we are doing this like I'm Brazilian, so our professor is Brazilian, so we are doing this in the root way. So we are very like friendly and warm. Like we hug people. We talk a lot. So there's no only like class and go home. You stay. We talk about things, life, etc. So there's a lot of teaching. So when people sees that, they are like, okay, that's interesting. That's not just martial art. So I can be part of this family, because we call ourselves family. We welcome everyone as a family. So welcome to the family Grace Bar, and we work with each other like a family. So that's something that's very catchy and very interesting. So if you want to start training jiu-jitsu, do the first step. Come for a trial, and decide. You're gonna see how this can change your life for good.
And you have a free event coming up as well. Tell us more about what that's all about, and what can attendees expect from this event?
Yeah, so the Try It Out event, it's an event that people can come to the gym. They can give it. We're gonna do like a free class, and they're gonna understand what I just said. Like, come for try, see with your eyes, test the sport, so you can feel better with that, because you're gonna be having the real experience. So that's what it's about, is to have the experience, to get the real experience with us.
And that event is tomorrow, October the 6th, right?
Yes, but we have this culture that we like. Jiu-jitsu for everyone means everyone should practice jiu-jitsu to have a better life. So we have these free trials. So every day, if you cannot come on tomorrow, you can book for the next week or the next when you're ready. We have free trials every day. Basically, almost every day we have people coming and trying and staying. So we have everything ready there.
Ricardo Duarte is the owner of Gracie Barra Jiu-Jitsu in Lethbridge, who will be hosting a free opportunity for kids to embark on their journey in self-defense tomorrow on October the 6th. Ricardo, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for inviting us, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about jiu-jitsu, which is something that changed my life like a lot, and I'm very happy now because of that. And I want to spread this happiness with everyone.
Well, Stephen Guilbeault, the Minister of Environment and Climate Change here in Canada, has referred to the goal of a fully decarbonized electrical grid as a nation-building project. However, with the proposal of net zero and decarbonization, as the phrases used by our federal government are shared with Canadians, many of us are asking just how realistic and feasible are these plans? Well, to answer those questions and more, I am joined by the spokeswoman of the Friends of Science, Michelle Sterling. Michelle, welcome back to Bridge City News.
Thanks so much for having me, Michael.
It's great to have you on. So before we get into the meat and potatoes of this, can you give us like the Coles Notes of Friends of Science?
Friends of Science is an organization of Earth, atmospheric, solar scientists, and business people, along with citizens. We've been operating for 21 years now. This is our 21st year. And we advocate for open civil debate on climate and energy policies and full cost benefit analysis. So we look at the peer-reviewed materials and the gray literature that's coming out and all these various reports. And then we issue commentaries on them with a critical review. And we sourced a lot of material also from Clintel, which is an organization of 1,500 plus scientists and scholars in Holland. And their view and ours is that there's no climate emergency. And we do have time.
Right. Now, that being said, we'll circle back to Stephen Guilbeault's comments. He had said that the net zero economy is the greatest economic opportunity of our time and a nation-building project of unprecedented scale and importance. Now, when we look past the ideas and the speeches, in your opinion and from the research of your organization, how will this idea become reality?
Well, I would say that the question we have is reality versus delusion, and we wrote a report on that on the Clean Electricity Standard. If you look at the amount of fossil fuels that we use in this country, especially, or in the world, to operate our modern society, about 80% is fossil fuels. So you don't change that overnight. And, it took us 100 years to build up the infrastructure that we have. So to start dismantling it and saying, oh, you can't heat your home with natural gas anymore. Well, how long is it going to take you to change that infrastructure, either to electrical, or some people say hydrogen? I don't think that's a very safe choice, but whatever it may be, that's going to take decades. It's not something that you can do overnight. And especially with regard to the electrical power grid, the grids are essentially serving each province. They're not connected. So the whole idea that the Liberal Party has had since 2005, I think, is to connect them all, kind of like Lego. They think it would be simple, because then if there's lots of wind in Alberta and there's nothing in Ontario, you can ship the power there. That's just not how electricity grids work. It's very expensive and dangerous. It put us at risk of national blackouts.
From the evidence that your organization has gathered, do these wind and solar projects that we already have in place help or hinder the people and the economy of Southern Alberta?
Well, I would say probably up to about where we were in 2000, 2013 even. We had kind of enough on the grid that it did sometimes fill in a good gap. And I spoke with a few of our retired professional engineers, and they said that they felt that it was contributing power and not putting a stress on the grid at that time. But from that point forward, what's happened when we phased out coal, we lost 1,000 megawatts over 2014 of dispatchable power. That's the kind of power that you can turn up or down. And wind and solar can't do that. They're entirely weather dependent and they're very erratic. So if you don't have that backup of dispatchable power, then you face potential blackouts. And that's a situation that we're in now. That's what happened last fall. We had 7 grid level 3 emergency alerts, which means blackouts are imminent, or they start load shedding where they may have agreements with large industrial users where they would phone them up and say, we're going to cut you off in an hour or 15 minutes or whatever it might be. That company gets paid a curtailment fee, right, from the taxpayer. So it becomes costly all the way around. The other issue is that we're actually subsidizing some of the biggest companies in the world with these power purchase agreements that Amazon and Microsoft have picked up, where it's actually Alberta and Canadian taxpayers who are subsidizing their bid to look clean and green.
Wow.
That's a hidden thing that the average person doesn't know or see.
Yeah, that sounds like there's such a web that it's hard to untangle it all. So speaking as how we're talking about the grid, can you share with us about the capacity or maybe the resiliency of Alberta's electrical grid now that we have added these variables of wind and solar?
Well, if you look in the Alberta Electric System Operator March 2023, which was the 2022 market statistic report, you can see that we have, I believe it's about 12% reserve capability, which is way down from what it was just a couple of years ago. Now, when we add on the access to the interties with Saskatchewan and Montana and British Columbia, then the reserve capability goes up to about 22% and brings us almost back to where we were a couple of years ago. But that depends on weather conditions. Like if it's really cold and dead and there's no wind in Alberta, then Saskatchewan needs to use all their coal power to fire Saskatchewan, and the same for Montana. So you have those regional weather patterns, and we might be able to draw some from BC, but again, it depends. They might need all their power. So, we can't really rely 100% on our neighbors, even though they're very good and we're grateful to them.
Yeah.
But it's lower. It's much lower now. I think the ISO says it's still manageable, but extreme weather events happen, and you don't want to be on the edge.
Exactly. Now, there's just so much to talk about, but I want to get to the recent provincial government here in Alberta of bringing out this moratorium on wind and solar projects. From your point of view, is this the best decision the UCP government can make?
Well, I don't speak for the government in any way, but, I would say that it's a thoughtful one because of these blackouts that we nearly had last fall. Now, just remember that the ISO report came out in March. We were already into an election period. The election was finished, end of May, and then, setting up cabinet and everything. So it may be that only now are people realizing, wow, we seem to have a real potential technical problem here. Maybe we should hold our horses and review these projects.
Right. They don't seem to have a long lifespan. I'm certainly no expert. I've been able to read and do some research on my own. I've got to ask you, if the provincial government feels that they have to study the end-of-life implications and recycling potential for the components from wind and solar, this may lead one to question, are wind and solar projects actually as green as we're led to believe?
No, they're not. The neodymium mines for the big magnets that are inside the wind turbines, they're mined in China in a place called Baotou, which looks like a toxic wasteland. People there are literally dying. They have, virtually no environmental standards. And also all the solar projects, most of the top, I think it's the top 6 of 10 solar companies in Canada are Chinese companies. So, these are renewable jobs for other countries. There's another factor that's actually propped up recently, and that is that many of the wind turbine manufacturers are facing serious financial problems. One being that the cost of all the materials have gone up dramatically, and in certainly those operating in Europe, their energy costs are through the roof. So they're not viable anymore. They're losing billions of euros. That raises a question too. What happens if you put up a wind farm and then they go bankrupt? You don't have parts, you don't have warranty.
Right. Yeah. Well, and one of the big things for businesses, of course, is cost certainty, and consumers need that as well. Now, the question's been raised, we touched on it very briefly about connecting grids from east to west across Canada. There is that thing called line loss, and there's just so much more of the backstory to me on these wind and solar projects. Do you see that there's even a path forward just here in Alberta of addressing these net zero targets?
Well, as I say, the only way that would be possible to do that is if you simply declared it free and clear, if you just buy credits. So if you go to like the Darkwoods project that Nature Conservancy runs, or the Great Bear Rainforest, and you buy a bunch of tree credits, all these trees are going to eat your carbon dioxide that your plant is emitting, and then you can claim your net zero. But that's just fakery. That's like paying a burglar to go and rob somebody's house down the street from you.
Yeah, so they don't rob yours.
Right.
In your opinion, what kind of budget do you think this would require to meet these targets that we're supposed to start, 12 years from now?
Well, it would be astronomical. Like, just for instance, we have to think not only about the wind and solar projects in Alberta that are on a moratorium, but just imagine the government wants us to drive EVs. So to transfer all of our light duty vehicles to EV would require another 10,000 megawatts of power generation. So the Shepherd plant in Calgary is about 800 megawatts. The Site C dam in BC it's about 1,000. So we need to build 8 or 10 more Site C dams. That's now $16 billion in costs, and it's been going on for about 30 years. Or like Muskrat Falls down east, also way over budget.
Can you talk maybe a little bit about that even home heating could be affected by this?
Well, yes, that's one of the things they want to do is to electrify homes. One of the things you mentioned is heat pumps, and people do seem to think that this is a fabulous idea. I know that Seamus O'Regan has really been pushing it down east in the Maritimes. But as you point out, it doesn't work at a low temperature, so it's perfectly unsuited to the prairies, that's for sure. And very unreliable. And if we look at the situation between Ontario and Quebec right now, excuse me, Quebec has electrified a lot of homes. They have a lot of hydro, of course, from James Bay Dam. But even in the dead of winter, Quebec has to import natural gas-fired power from Ontario to keep the lights on, because they've now drawn so much power from the grid for heating homes. And they've banned other things there, like wood burning fireplaces. You know, and the other thing I think people have to recognize is energy security is not just about having one source of supply. It's about having options. And we used to have in Alberta about 50% natural gas and 45% natural gas and 45% coal. And natural gas is a market commodity, so the price spikes are very dramatic at times. That's what's killing energy prices in Europe right now. But coal is very stable. So, you know, if you have these options, then you can play one off against the other, depending on either availability of supply or the cost of it.
Now, as we're wrapping up, how can people find out more information about the Friends of Science and maybe read some of your scholarly work?
Well, you can go to our website, which is www.friendsofscience.org. And you can also look at our YouTube channel, our Twitter feed, our blog. You'll find our blog via our website. And our reports are mostly posted on the blog. Our YouTube channel has a number of video explainers. I just did one about this very topic that we've been discussing. And you can always send us an email, media@friendsofsciencesociety.org. And media@friendsofscience.org, and I'll send you links.
Sure. That's good. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate you being here today. And thank you once again for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Our pleasure. That was Michelle Sterling. She joined us from her office near Calgary. I'm Michael Clausen. For all of us here at Bridge City News, thanks for watching.